I will make it public right here that he will get the next shot at the title.
Have you ever heard of cage fighting?
Like dog cage fighting?
No, with martial arts.
Oh, no.
No?
No. Like UFC?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I like the UFC.
Oh, you
This fight, everybody knew coming in, was basically your #1 contender bout. At least that's what Zuffa was saying, that if you win this fight, you fight Rich Franklin in November.
Always liked the Gracie's and their style of fighting.
Have you ever heard of Matt Lindland?
Matt who?
Lindland.
No, I haven't. Is he one of the new up-and-comers?
What happens now if for some reason you don't get the title shot? Are you so frustrated with your UFC and everything, you're just, going to look for another option? Or what if that scenario played out?
The one looking like the idiot right now is the UFC, because they've got one of the best fighters in the world that they cut loose, and he, they haven't brought him in to fight their top guys.
The scenario is I don't get a title shot. I have another fight on this contract with the UFC.
From Eagle Creek, USA, Matt the Law Lindland!
Get that back tenfold. I've learned how hard you have to work to be successful. I've learned how much you have to sacrifice and how dedicated you have to be successful. I mean, it doesn't come easy, and it doesn't come automatically. It takes effort, and if you want to be successful in anything, in wrestling, in sports, or in business, in life, you've got to give your best. You've got to strive for excellence. You've got to give everything you've got for whatever amount of time it is that you're going for your goals.
Well, Matt was a little different. He'd like to do things different than everybody else. He was an individualist. He did everything his way. Matt got a horse. Well, he's only a year and a half old when he got his first horse. We bought the horse before we even moved out here. I got the horse a few months ahead of time. Matt got into wrestling. Started just in grade school a little bit. Made the varsity the first year. Junior nationals. Won first at district. Took second place at state. He played baseball one year after he got caught in school chewing tobacco. So they told him that he had to do an alternative sport. And so baseball is basically the only thing left that he could do at that time of the year. So he played baseball. He wasn't very good at it. Coach told him to keep your eye on the ball. So they put him out in the back, out in the field. And ball's coming at him. He's watching the ball, and it hit him in the eye and knocked him out. Coach asked him, why didn't put your glove up and catch the ball? He said, you didn't tell me to. Told me to keep my eye on the ball.
Actually, I dated one of his friends, and I got introduced to him, and he would not leave me alone. I was a junior, so I was 16. He was a year older, or no, maybe we were sophomore. I was a sophomore, he was a junior. And he was like 98 pounds. Well, we just honestly, me and my mom used to joke, because he was the guy that would never leave our house. And he was going out to Nebraska for school, and he wanted me to go with him. And he showed up with a U-Haul, and I didn't have anything packed, so he just started putting everything in my closet in the truck, and away we went. And actually, the day we got married, he picked me up from the machine shop, the place I worked, and took me to the Justice of the Peace, and we got married. But I mean, ever since I met Matt, all I wanted was a family, kids. Wants to be the dad.
Robin, do you want to be in the movies? What'd you say? Do you love your daddy? Huh?
Yes.
Yes. Say, I love you, Daddy.
We went to Colorado Springs for him to train for the Olympics. He didn't make the '96 team. We went back to Nebraska where he coached.
When I think about, my goals of being a champion, I see myself up on that stand and getting my hand raised and getting that medal put around my neck. I think about, being up on that stand on the top of the podium and hearing that national anthem. oh, it gets, you know, it just makes my heart warm.
He'd lock up with a guy and he could throw him, and I've never seen anybody that locks up as tight as he does and throws a guy.
Ever since the day I met him, he was talking about this medal that he was going to win.
You know, he was a guy that came out of high school and never won a high school state championship. He instantly says, I'm going to win a national championship.
And it usually takes guys years and years and years to get to a place where, okay, now I'm in contention for the world team. Okay, now I'm into the Olympic trials. You could get into the Olympic trials and never make it past there.
Well, for a guy to think he can win a national championship when he never won a high school championship is logically hard to wrap your brain around.
Matt and I go way back. We first met when we were in college. He was wrestling in Nebraska. I wrestled at the nemesis, Oklahoma State. And my teammate was Pat Smith. And him and Matt went back and forth quite a bit.
Well, a few years goes by, next thing you know, he won 3 national championships.
And then later we ended up on the national team together and went on, you know, every crazy country in Eastern Bloc Europe and several big world championships and world teams together, and we got to know each other pretty well through that endeavor.
Matt's wrestling background, I knew that he was a strong wrestler. I didn't know the whole details of how decorated of a wrestler he was.
When I'm out there wrestling, it's not just Matt Lindland wrestling, it's Matt Lindland wrestling for the United States, and him wrestling for his family, his community, you know, everything. I mean, I love this country, and I mean, one of my favorite things to do is when I'm competing is I'm proud to wear that singlet that says USA on it. To be able to represent the United States is really what it comes down to, and that's why I'm doing it. I mean, I'm doing it for me, but I'm doing it so I can represent this country.
His confidence it's unbelievable, but if you believe in the laws of attraction at all, if you've ever read The Secret, I mean, he's just a walking example of it. Then he says, I'm going to go and I'm going to win the Olympics. And the next thing you know, he doesn't even make the Olympic team. He loses at the trials.
A bad call by a referee actually almost cost Lindland a trip to the Olympics. He had to wait 2 months and watch his case go to the Supreme Court before learning he could represent the United States in Sydney.
You know, you talk about him suing the U.S. Olympic Committee to make the Olympics because he felt that he was wronged. Who does that? You know, and who does it successfully?
Sure enough, he gets put back on the team and he finds himself in the finals of the Olympics.
Matt Lindland came to Sydney not to be just part of the United States Olympic Greco wrestling team, but to win a medal, and tonight that medal is silver after a tremendous tournament, not the match that you won tonight against Kardonov, but Matt, all in all, a very, very successful, the most successful tournament of your career, yes?
I won other tournaments, so I don't think so. It's a big tournament though, and to take a silver medal is a good place. I came here to win, but you know, I think, you know, I should be proud of what I've accomplished.
Yes, you should.
I'm happy.
You never wavered in your belief of yourself, even when the arbitration hearings were going on. You always believed that you belonged here, and I think you certainly proved it in Sydney during the last couple of days.
I hope so.
What I'm going to take from wrestling is what I put into it. I put in a lot of work and a lot of time and effort, and I'm going to get that out of it. I'm going to get that back tenfold. I've learned how hard you have to work to be successful.
Who goes to the Supreme Court and you know, does all that? That's Matt Lindland, someone who's not willing to lay down for anybody, whether that's in the ring or outside of it.
When a lot of mixed martial arts fans say, oh, he's a wrestler and he's done this and that, I mean, you really got to look at the level where this wrestler is. As an Olympian, a silver medalist, #2, you know, for that year, pretty much any guy that gets into the cage with the Matt Lindland is going to have a hard time. Matt Lindland will probably be able to control the bout because wrestlers get to decide where the fight goes.
And News Channel 8's John Becker has our report.
We all call him Daddy.
The flight delay gives one toddler a chance to practice some Olympic moves. Friends ready a welcome sign, and the wait gives family members a chance to talk about Greco-Roman wrestler Matt Lindland. The crowd preparing to greet Matt's plane came to see a man they know as a great dad and a good friend who just also happens to be an Olympian.
Even more so than his medal, I love the person that Matthew is.
After sharing a few hugs and showing off his new hardware, Matt says he's happy to be home, but can't help thinking about making one more Olympic trip.
Oh my God. And I'm so proud of him.
Maybe 4 years from now, I'll go get it to the other color.
You know, I met Matt Lindland in 1996. I graduated from high school in North Platte, Nebraska, and then I decided to go wrestle at the University of Nebraska, where he was. Matt was an assistant coach there. You know, I ended up in Oregon based on Matt Lindland. You know, my fight career started through a friend. He just entered me in a fight over the internet, and then me and Matt started talking. That was in April of 2003. I just did a fight. I wasn't training or nothing. I just showed up and fought somebody. And then Matt knew me from college, obviously, and was like, "Are you fighting?" And I said, "Nah, well, I did one." He's like, "I want you to move to Oregon." So I met him up in Colorado Springs. We talked a little bit about what he was going to do, how he's going to help me to come out here. He's like, "You can live at my house for a while till you get on your feet." And I said, "Well, let me talk it over," you know, and went back home, quit my job, and moved out here in June.
You know, work ethic, I mean, forget about it. The guy was an animal in the gym, and a lot of times we teased him because he would always be the last one picked at practice. Nobody wanted to wrestle with him. He's all bones and sinew and, you know, awkward, and he just beat the hell out of you when you wrestled with him. So he was like, "Damn it, I didn't get a partner again for a drill." He was always complaining about that. But.
You all right? Yep.
I'm Matt's lawyer and his manager. I got to know Matt when he was trying to get on the Olympic team in the year 2000. And we had a case that we took through 2 arbitrations and 3 federal court appeals and ended up on the steps of the Supreme Court before they decided that Matt was going to the Olympics. Won his silver medal, and we've known each other ever since.
I told Matt to get in a fight, and he said after the Olympics that he would. And he followed through on it. After the 2000 Olympics, he transferred right into mixed martial arts. At that same time, I was just finishing up my wrestling career at the University of Oregon. So we started training mixed martial arts together the same way as we did wrestling. Just every day we get together and try to work on mixed martial arts.
If you want to be the best, you have to be willing to fight anyone. I mean, if you look at the fighters that stand out in our sport, Matt Lindland, BJ Penn, they'll fight anyone. 2 weight classes up, 1 weight class up, and I want to be one of the best as well someday. And so, got all the great examples here to look up to. Matt and Dan, they'll fight anyone.
Exactly. That's the move. Did you see that on tape?
Have you ever heard of cage fighting?
Cage fighting, yes.
Have you?
Yes. Is that the gladiator fighting? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I've never heard of cage fighting.
Is it to the death or just till one goes to the hospital?
I think it's a pretty killer sport.
Oh, the fact that people actually beat the shit out of each other instead of, you know, like with wrestling where it's all fake and a bunch of staged stuff.
I'm against violence.
Just 2 guys, man on man, you know. I like the fact that they have a lot of different skills they use, the submission holds and things like that. But it's, you know, a lot of times they get on the ground and grapple, but then they'll get up and they'll start, you know, punching and things. So.
You've heard of cage fighting?
Oh. Yeah.
What is it?
I'm not so sure what it is, but I've heard of it. Do you like fighting in a cage?
I like it because it's really a mix of all the martial arts, and it's really interesting to me to when it boils right down to it. Out of all the martial arts, it seems like the grappling arts, whether it's wrestling, Roman Greco, or judo, jiu-jitsu, seems to be the dominant.
I don't know what I'm watching. I just when I'm flipping through and it comes on, I'll stay. That sort of thing. I don't know. UFC is probably like the first name that pops into head for as far as brawling.
In 1993, the first UFC was held in McNichols Arena in Denver, Colorado, and it was really basically to settle the question, you know, who would win in all these various fighting styles, which fighting style was the best, and you had fighters who came in and they represented one individual unique style. Royce Gracie represented the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and people looked at him and they thought, how can this guy possibly compete with some of these athletes we have in this? He was a 175-pounder, he was skinny, but he understood jiu-jitsu, he knew things that they had never seen before, and he won the first UFC.
There were no weight classes, so you see guys with ponytails just getting banged on, and you see guys getting punched in the throat and kicked in the groin, and you see really no rules. It's basically a barroom brawl, the equivalent of basically the movie Fight Club.
I mean, we were
the biggest thing there was on pay-per-view. We were doing 300,000 buys when there were 20 million homes. There's now 65, 67 million homes. There's now 3 times as many homes. And they rarely get up to those kind of numbers. We were doing it then. We would, I think we were on a great growth path. We had great fighters. It was an incredible time. It really was. Where people really wanted to see it, really believed in it. And very, very exciting time. And certainly if it hadn't become a silly political issue, there's no question it would have been a huge, huge sport. It was already.
There was a time when we refer to it as the Dark Ages, when the politicians started to take notice of this and they got kicked off of pay-per-view.
Few knew about the sport because it was banned in nearly every state, called too violent by some, including one of the most powerful lawmakers in Washington, Senator John McCain.
I think it's an incredibly brutal spectacle that is on the level of a cockfight, only we're using human beings.
But the hardcore fans, and there are a lot of them, they kept the sport alive on the internet during the dark period. And, you know, 96 and 97, when there was no cable television, no Spike TV, no nothing. The internet really was the reason that mixed martial arts survived.
UFC was, you know, an inch from dying.
Because we had been banned from cable, for absolutely no reason, and please feel free to check. There was never anything that happened, but we had this political problem, and we were losing quite a bit of money, and I was just financing it all out of my pocket.
It's one of those sports that was underground for so many years and was only watched and written about and talked about by a small cadre of people who collected on the internet.
Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta are casino owners in Las Vegas. Their family has a tradition in Las Vegas of being in the gaming industry. I think they own the Station properties, which are local Las Vegas casinos. They cater to Las Vegas audience. They have a lot of money. You're talking about casino owners, that's sort of synonymous.
But the Fertittas got really excited about the sport of MMA. They decided they wanted to take a look at buying the UFC.
It was a great buy. The UFC really was nothing at that point except a name that people sort of remembered from a decade before. And they came along because, you know, their buddy Dana White said, look, this is a great opportunity, let's purchase it.
Zuffa LLC had bought the UFC in early 2001, around UFC 30. And they spent the next 3 to 4 years pumping money into it, trying ad campaigns in big magazines, trying to get celebrities to come in. They were doing everything they could, and they were trying to get live fights onto any sports channel or specialty channel that they could, and they couldn't get it on.
Zuffa was the company that was created by the Fertittas and Dana White upon purchasing the UFC. It's basically the promotional company that handles all their mixed martial arts business.
At that time, Lorenzo was part of the boxing commission in the state of Nevada. A very respected commissioner, knew the sport, knew boxing. They felt
that they, you know, could control the message in a way that the mainstream media would buy it. And their press packets for the longest time have said, you know, we created mixed martial arts in North America. We were the ones behind the regulations in North America. We created the rules for New Jersey and California. All that's nonsense. There had been people long before Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta and Zuffa who would come along and put their heart and sweat and love for mixed martial arts into this thing. But Zuffa had gone around and convinced everybody that way. And you had major papers, major Time, Newsweek, Washington Post, New York Times, everybody and anybody that's the pillar of journalism in America saying that these guys created the rules. It's just nonsense.